The sun hung low in the sky as dust swirled around the entrance of the small town. Just then, a figure emerged from the haze, a lone cowboy walking slowly down the dirt path. He was unlike any cowboy most had seen before. Without a horse at his side or a hat on his head, he looked both lost and determined. His rugged clothes were torn and stained, telling stories of hard days and long nights. A deep wound on his side stained his shirt red, and he winced with each step. The townspeople paused in their daily routines, exchanging curious glances. Whispers spread like wildfire. Who is he? Where did he come from? Eyes widened as they took in the sight of this mysterious stranger, imagining all sorts of adventures that led him to their quiet town. His face was weathered but striking, with sharp features softened by a hint of vulnerability. It was clear he had seen many things, some good but likely many bad. The cowboy moved forward with an easy grace, but each stride revealed his struggle against pain. He seemed both a hero and a wandering ghost, caught between two worlds. As he drew closer to the general store, something in his eyes sparked intrigue, a flicker of memory lost somewhere in the shadows of his mind. What had happened to him? Why had he come here? The answer was hidden beneath layers of hurt and courage, waiting for someone to uncover it. The townspeople stood frozen in their tracks as the cowboy approached, their everyday chatter fading into a hushed silence. They exchanged worried glances before murmurs began to ripple through the crowd. "Did you see him? No horse. No hat," one woman exclaimed, clutching her grocery bag tightly. Others nodded, their faces twisted with concern and curiosity. A group of children watched wide-eyed from behind a wooden fence, whispering excitedly about the stranger. Their imaginations ran wild. Was he a hero, or had he come to bring trouble? The shopkeeper leaned against his doorframe, arms crossed, frowning as he tried to assess the situation. He had never seen a cowboy quite like this before. Something about him felt off, yet compelling. As the cowboy stumbled closer, the whispers grew louder. "He's hurt. Someone needs to help him," called out an older man who had seen many hardships in his life. The townsfolk gathered near the general store, torn between fear and compassion. They were not accustomed to such sights. Their quiet town was known for its safety and routine. Suddenly, a brave young girl broke through the crowd and stepped forward. "I'll help him," she declared boldly. The other townspeople looked at each other in surprise. This cowboy might be injured and without protection, but that didn't mean he was alone. Not if they had anything to say about it. The air buzzed with tension and uncertainty, yet hope flickered amidst the chaos of gossip and worry. With each step, the cowboy felt a sharp stab of pain radiate from the bullet wound in his side. He tried to breathe deeply, but the pressure made it hard to focus. Sweat dripped down his brow, mixing with the dust on his face, but he pressed on, driven by sheer willpower. The townspeople watched him closely as he moved, noting how he leaned slightly to one side, his determination pushing him forward despite the agony. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, memories of what had led him here and worries about what might happen next. He could hear the whispers around him, but they faded into a dull roar compared to the throbbing pain that demanded his attention. Each time his foot hit the ground, a fresh wave of discomfort coursed through him, yet he clenched his jaw and continued. As he neared the young girl who had offered her help, he felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. Maybe this town could provide solace from whatever pursuit had brought him so low. He straightened up slightly, trying to project an aura of strength even as he fought against the weakness threatening to overtake him. The cowboy knew that showing vulnerability might invite compassion or fear. Still, he chose to stand tall for himself and for those who were willing to lend a hand. With every step toward the crowd, he was determined not only to survive, but also to seek a new beginning in this unexpected place. As he walked, a sudden flash of memory surged through the cowboy's mind, pulling him back to a dusty canyon where shadows danced under the setting sun. He could hear the echoes of laughter and shouts, a stark contrast to the bleakness that surrounded him now. Just moments before, he had been with his friends, sharing stories around a campfire, but laughter quickly turned to chaos. A band of outlaws had appeared from nowhere, guns drawn and demands snarled. The air had thickened with tension as they confronted his group, looking for trouble. The cowboy remembered the sense of duty that had sparked within him as he stepped forward to protect his friends. He could see their faces, fearful yet hopeful, as they looked to him for guidance. In the sudden frenzy, shots rang out. He had tried to dodge, but the world seemed to move in slow motion as pain exploded in his side. He fell to the ground, staring up at the sky with confusion and rage. How could it have come to this? The memory faded as quickly as it came, leaving only the sharp ache reminding him of that fateful day. As he staggered forward, he realized that he was not just carrying a wound but also the weight of all he had lost. The cowboy steeled himself, knowing that whatever happened next would determine if he could finally leave those haunting memories behind and find redemption in this new town. As the cowboy staggered closer to the gathering crowd, a small figure emerged from the edge of the group. It was the brave young girl who had first stepped forward. Her eyes sparkled with determination as she reached out her hand, guiding him toward a nearby building that bore a faded sign reading, "Dr. Miller's office." She seemed unfazed by his injuries, displaying kindness that warmed his weary heart. The townspeople parted as they approached, their worried gazes following them. The girl held the door open for him, and he stepped inside, greeted by the faint scent of antiseptic and aged wood. Behind a cluttered desk sat Dr. Miller, an older man with graying hair and spectacles perched on his nose. He looked up, startled, as the cowboy stumbled in, clutching his side. "What in tarnation happened to you?" Dr. Miller exclaimed, immediately rushing to assess the wound. The cowboy hesitated, feeling vulnerable under the doctor's scrutiny. But the girl's steady hand on his arm reassured him, urging him to trust this stranger. "I'm not sure how much time I have," the cowboy managed to say through gritted teeth. Dr. Miller's face grew serious, and he began gathering supplies, while the girl stood by, her presence a source of strength. Together, they prepared to face the challenge ahead, ready to fight against time and pain to save a life still intertwined with hope for a new beginning. As Dr. Miller hurriedly prepared to treat the cowboy's wound, he felt a rising sense of panic. The small office was cluttered with medical supplies, but he quickly realized that his resources were limited. The last of his painkillers had been used on a previous patient, and he was running low on bandages. Time was not on their side, and the cowboy's pale face showed signs of distress. "Just hold on, son," Dr. Miller urged, trying to keep his voice steady as he examined the wound more closely. The bullet had lodged itself deep, and the bleeding was profuse. He had to act quickly but also carefully. Any wrong move could lead to disaster. The young girl's worried gaze burned into him, amplifying his sense of urgency. "Do we have any more supplies in the back?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Dr. Miller shook his head grimly. "I'm afraid not. I'll need to make do with what we have." He grabbed a pair of scissors and began cutting away the cowboy's shirt, revealing the severity of the injury beneath. "Stay with me," he instructed firmly, looking into the cowboy's eyes for any sign of fading consciousness. The cowboy nodded weakly, but Dr. Miller could see the fight leaving him. With each passing moment, the stakes grew higher. The small town's doctor felt an overwhelming weight of responsibility on his shoulders, knowing that this cowboy's fate rested in his hands as he struggled against time and dwindling resources. Just as Dr. Miller began to work on the cowboy's wound, the sound of hooves thundered outside the office, drawing the attention of everyone inside. The brave young girl exchanged anxious glances with the doctor, sensing that trouble was brewing. Moments later, the door swung open with a bang, and a trio of rugged men stepped into the room, their eyes scanning for the injured cowboy. "Where is he?" one of them barked, his voice low and threatening. They were the outlaws, men the cowboy had once faced in that dusty canyon, and now they had come to collect what they believed was theirs. Their presence sent a chill through the air, and the townspeople outside began to murmur nervously. Dr. Miller stepped forward, trying to maintain control. "You're not welcome here," he said, his voice steady but firm. The men smirked, clearly unfazed by his authority. "We're just looking for a friend of ours," the leader replied, casting a menacing glance around the room. The young girl felt her heart race as she realized the danger they were in. If these men discovered the cowboy was inside, not only would his life be at risk, but so would everyone in this small town who dared to help him. The stakes had risen dramatically. She knew they needed to act quickly. As tension thickened in the air, it became clear that protecting the cowboy would require immense courage from both her and Dr. Miller. As the outlaws loomed in the doorway, tense whispers raced through the small town. The townspeople, who had initially gathered out of curiosity, transformed into a united front determined to protect the cowboy they barely knew. They exchanged glances, silently forging a plan fueled by bravery and camaraderie. Nearby, an old rancher named Mr. Thompson stepped forward, his weathered face resolute. "We won't let you take him," he declared, standing tall beside Dr. Miller and the young girl. His voice echoed through the office like a battle cry, awakening courage in others. The shopkeeper and a few farmers rallied behind him, ready to defend their own. Outside the office, fists clenched and hearts racing, more townsfolk gathered, ready to stand against this threat. They were ordinary people. Mothers holding children, farmers dressed in dusty work clothes. Yet they felt an extraordinary bond in that moment. As one man shouted for anyone listening to gather arms for defense, the spirit of unity grew stronger. The outlaws shifted nervously at the sight of this solidarity. Their confident demeanor faltered as they faced a community unwilling to back down. Each villager knew that protecting the cowboy was about more than just one man's life. It was a stand against fear and injustice. Determined to defend their town and what was right, they locked eyes with one another and prepared to face whatever came next together. In that critical moment, friendship blossomed into bravery as they resolved not just to save a life, but also to protect their shared values and home from harm's way. The tension in the air thickened as the townspeople gathered outside Dr. Miller's office, their hearts pounding in unison. Mr. Thompson stood at the forefront, rallying everyone with a fierce determination that inspired courage in even the most timid among them. They knew the outlaws would not back down easily. They had come for blood, and now it was time to defend their own. As the outlaws swaggered toward the crowd, confidence oozing from every step, the townspeople formed a tight line, standing shoulder to shoulder. The brave young girl clutched her makeshift weapon, a sturdy branch, her eyes wide with both fear and resolve. Behind her, farmers gripped pitchforks and brooms like shields, ready to protect not just a stranger but their entire community. "Stay strong. We fight together," Mr. Thompson shouted, his voice cutting through the fear like a knife. The townspeople nodded in agreement, emboldened by his words. When the outlaws finally reached them, they halted abruptly, taken aback by the united front before them. "Back off," one of the outlaws sneered, his hand resting on his holster. "We're not here for trouble." Mr. Thompson stepped closer, unwavering. "You're mistaken if you think we'll let you take him without a fight." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. With their hearts pounding and adrenaline surging, they readied themselves for confrontation. This was no longer just about one cowboy's life. It was about standing up for what was right and protecting their home against those who sought to intimidate them. In that moment of unity, bravery thrived. This showdown would define them all. In the aftermath of the showdown, the town breathed a collective sigh of relief. The outlaws had retreated, deterred by the courage and unity of the townspeople. The cowboy, now recovering under Dr. Miller's attentive care, felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the community that had embraced him in his time of need. Days passed, and as the cowboy healed, he found himself welcomed into the fold of the town. Mr. Thompson offered him a job helping with his ranch, while the brave young girl became a steadfast friend, eager to hear tales of his past adventures. Slowly, he began to see this small town not just as a refuge from danger, but as a new home where he could rebuild his life. The experience transformed not only the cowboy but also the townspeople. They had faced a significant threat together and emerged stronger, realizing that their bonds went deeper than mere acquaintance. Neighbors who once barely spoke now gathered for meals and shared laughter as they recounted the dramatic events that had brought them together. With each passing day, the cowboy grew more at ease, shedding the weight of his former life marked by gunfire and loss. He had found redemption among those who stood beside him in courage. The town thrived from their new connections, and as seasons changed, friendships blossomed under the vast sky, leaving behind shadows of fear and embracing a brighter future built on solidarity and newfound hope.